One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness, bind them. Guess what I'm reading? Ah! But before we can talk about what this is about, when I was 3 years old, in a high plastic booster chair in the cinema, wrapped in my favorite sweater, feeling warm and cozy, thinking I was gonna watch a great, fun, colorful movie about unicorns, Barbie, and whatsoever I thought that I liked at that time. All my dreams were shattered when I realized The Fellowship of the Ring was the movie that I was watching. You know, it is so deceiving because The Fellowship of the Ring started out with a beautiful scene in the Shire. You know, after that initial prologue, it starts with a beautiful scene in the Shire where you see bright green and yellow houses of the hobbits, and it looks so happy and it's so sunny and so beautiful, full of greenery and flowers. And summer at its highest and its peak and its beauty. And then came the black cloaked riders, the creepy elves, the orcs that look so scary and look like they had been beaten by the meat mallet and their face had been contoured into a flat, ugly meat patty. I had nightmares that night, even though I know I don't remember anymore about how I felt then. That I knew that I left that cinema feeling a lot of fear for my life. And then, for years, I've continued to fear the Lord of the Rings series because I actually ended up watching all 3 movies when I was very young. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. And I've been forever plagued by this goddamn movie for years on end. And I was thinking to myself, why did everyone think that this is a fantasy movie? Because clearly this is a horror movie. This is frightening as hell. And, you know, I reached an age where it's a little bit more acceptable to watch this movie. And I was like, wait, what do you mean Lord of the Rings is a cult favorite of everyone's? You mean readers love this and authors worship this? Yeah, I'm giving it a try. And so at 14 years old, I decided, yeah, I'm gonna watch all the movies without fear. And I watched in the dark and overcame my fears of giant spiders, evil wizards, and a bug-eyed, creepy little hobbit-like creature, aka Golem, if you didn't know. And then, at that age, I truly appreciated Lord of the Rings for its grandeur and its beauty as films. And that was all I got out of rewatching the movies and being like, yeah, this was amazingly done. Can we talk about the CGI they used? That was a really great one at that time period. And that's all I took away from it. And so, in 2023, I finally decided to rewatch the movies again. And you know what? I just finished watching all 3 in the course of 2 days. And you know, those movies are 3 hours long each. I feel dead inside. That freaking movies are so good. The story is so good. I've been missing out on Lord of the Rings all these years of my life. Am I stupid? Probably. But you know, you could say that I'm a little bit idiotic. You could say that people are a little bit more idiotic under the age of 25, and after turning 25, their brain is a little bit more, you know, the frontal lobe of their brains have been fully developed, and so I'm 25 this year. Makes total sense that I finally got into this goddamn Forsaken series. I love it so much. Point is, I'm really amazed by the world that J.R.R. Tolkien has crafted. This is Middle Earth. God, now I understand why authors and readers worship him, because that is just insane. Like, wow. Well crafted, really feels like Middle Earth exists on another plane, on another universe, on another timeline. So intrigued by how expensive and excellent the world is that I'm like, you know what? I love these characters. I love this world. It's time to know. It's time to read The Lord of the Rings. Here's the plan. My plan is to first read The Lord of the Rings which is solely focused on the 3 books as part of the series. Additionally, The Hobbit, which is the one that started them all. And I also plan to touch on the tales of Middle-earth, like the children of Húrin, Beren and Lúthien, and the fall of Gondolin. That's part of the tales of Middle-earth. And also, I want to read the Silmarillion. I don't know if that's the way to pronounce it. Yeah, okay. I'm not very good at pronunciations, but the Silmarillion, yeah, that too. But truly, no promises here because these are just goals that I want to keep. And I know that the Silmarillion is not the easiest to read because it reads a little bit like a history textbook instead. So I will try my best, but I'm very interested in Middle-earth, so I probably will get to it, just not very fast. Okay? So what is going to be the most interesting part of this entire series is probably me also reading books that have been inspired by the Lord of the Rings. You know, there are many series out there that have been inspired by the Lord of the Rings, and it's very exciting to see how Lord of the Rings has transformed the fantasy landscape as it is. So that will only be done, of course, after reading the main 3 books as well as The Hobbit before I dive into the additional material of Middle-earth as well as read books that authors have been inspired by Lord of the Rings and created. But honestly, this is a challenging one. I am scared. That is not a lie. But let's start this vlog. But first, let's talk a bit about a backstory for the Lord of the Rings. In 1930s, Tolkien began his journey with Middle-earth by conjuring a story for his 4 young children who were bored out of their wits. And so he sat down and decided to start the story of The Hobbit. And he told them the story of The Hobbit as a bedtime story, which eventually turned into a book that he published. The book gained major success as a young adult children's book of that time, and people were asking for more. And so the publisher is like, okay, let's feed the people what they want. Let's give them what they want. And they told Tolkien, make more. I command you to. And Tolkien didn't listen to them. No. That's mean to Tolkien because Tolkien did. And so he spent the next few years of his life writing more about Middle-earth in the form of what we know now as The Lord of the Rings. That was only published 17 years after The Hobbit was published in 1937. So you can imagine, as fans of that time, they were waiting long years before they could get another book from Middle-earth. And so The Lord of the Rings was actually published as one whole book. But you know, it's big, you know, the story is large. And so they broke it up into 3 different parts, which we now know as The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. It was never published as a trilogy, and it has always been published as an entire book. And though the origins of The Lord of the Rings seems to stem from The Hobbit, actually truly, Tolkien was someone who was always very interested in this world that he created. And he was actually, for years before he even came up with the story for The Hobbit, had been crafting a legendarium in his head for Middle-earth and explaining a world in his head full of orcs, elves, wizards, and of course our beloved hobbits. And this legendarium will then further become what we know as the Silmarillion. And so this legendarium that he has created in his head had soon after that became the Silmarillion. But I won't talk too much about the Silmarillion here because we'll probably talk about it more when we read it. But in this vlog, we'll be reading The Fellowship of the Ring. And what is The Lord of the Rings? If you don't already know, let me tell you what The Lord of the Rings is. There is a ring that has been used years and years ago, 600 years ago. And it's the one ring that cannot be destroyed and seems to be able to destroy everyone. The great evil Sauron used this ring and tried to kill everybody with it. He wants to take over the world and rule it as his, obviously. And then, unlucky him gets killed. But the ring never ever got destroyed. So, fast forward 600 years, we realize we follow a young little hobbit named Frodo as he lives his life in the Shire. He's very happy, and today is his uncle's birthday, Bilbo Baggins. And Bilbo is a little bit strange, and not everybody likes him, and he's getting more strange and stranger over time. And you soon realize that, hey, somehow or other, Bilbo has this ring. How? We'll soon see that he found it in the river, it seems, from a little creature called Golem. And so we don't follow Bilbo, and Bilbo goes to retirement. But Gandalf, his great friend Gandalf, the wizard, the Gandalf the Grey, the great wizard of the West, I don't know. he comes for the birthday party and realizes that Bilbo has this special ring. What is that ring, he says, and he looks at it and says, that looks evil. It has evil intonations to it. Something is wrong. And so he tries to figure out like what this ring is about. He realizes this is the ring. This is the one ring to rule them all. Okay, I'll keep you guys updated as with the whatever I've read. Okay? Bye. I'm currently around the 100 pages mark, about 114 pages or so, and I think if I'm not wrong, I've just finished chapter 6. Okay, well, everything about this I'm already loving, cause we are in this world of the hobbits, and I'm loving the perspective, and I'm loving all the lore that I'm getting out of the Lord of the Rings. But then I can totally see why I didn't really enjoy this book as a kid. So I attempted to read this when I was 14 or 15 years old because I was starting to get a little bit into the Lord of the Rings. I was like, yeah, let's check this out. Let's figure out what's so great about this. And I tried The Hobbit and I got so bored by the writing style. But now I know how Tolkien is like, and I know his writing style, and I know how descriptive he is, and I know that he's someone who just loves to tell and never really likes to show. So, because I did some research on Tolkien, I understood that before he wrote this entire series, is that he had been building a legendarium on this entire world that was eventually named Middle Earth. So it sometimes feels like he just like plucked out bits of his legendarium and planted it into the story. And then he's like, oh yes, by the way, side story about what the hobbits are like and blah 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 blah, and he just goes on a ramble. And that's just his style, which I guess can catch people off guard, like, oh gosh, here he goes on another like historical ramble of his world. Which I totally understand can be a bit jarring, which I did feel that way when I was a younger reader. Now that I know what I'm getting into, I'm less I'm less bothered by it, and I know, and I'm just appreciating it because I already know the story. So going into it, it's about what do I not know about the Lord of the Rings anymore? What do I not know? I'm not absorbing the content thinking I'm trying to get into a story, trying to understand where the plot is going. I know where the plot is going, but now, what do I want to know more about the world? Which is very, very intriguing. So in this first 100 pages, already there's quite a bit of deviation for the movie, I was quite shocked. I didn't think that it would be such a deviation. It's so different, and yet similar because they're still going on. Mainly, the hobbits are still going on a journey together to get the ring somewhere. But um, in the movie, the quest was really clear. Is that Frodo needed to get rid of the ring. How did he want to get rid of the ring? He wasn't quite sure, but he know he needed to go somewhere, and it was likely to go to the, to Mordor to dispose of the ring in the mountain that carved the ring in the first place, and the only place that can actually destroy the ring. And for this,
actually Frodo wasn't very sure where he wanted to go. And the circumstance revolving around the characters are a little bit different than before, and it's actually clearer in the story that it's actually much clearer in the story because now I understand the relationships between the different hobbits in the yeah. Now I understand the relationship between the hobbits and Frodo. So this whole time I've always wondered why Sam always calls Frodo Mr. Frodo. He never ever says Frodo or whatsoever, or he always says Mr. And I was like, what's wrong with you, Sam? Why are you so polite? Like, it doesn't make sense. You guys are friends. Only to find out that, all right, you know what, Sam? You know what? Sam isn't Frodo's friend technically. He is actually the servant to Frodo. He is, Frodo is his master. And I only know this now, and back then I only guessed, but I wasn't sure. It wasn't indicated and it wasn't clear to us. And Merry and Pippin are actually his best friends, which in the show, in the movies, it didn't seem that way. It felt like Merry and Pippin were just some random friends that he had that were close to him, but not this level of close. And it's actually very sweet to see how they have such an adorable friendship that is so endearing and lovely. And, they're just so cute. And I'm just glad that Frodo has friends like them. Including Sam, who is technically a servant, but it's so nice to see them have this found family aspect because they are related, but they're not so related. So it's quite interesting to see the Hobbit lore and how hobbits are related with one another and how they're so funny and that they love mushrooms. I learned that just now. Like, so cute. They love mushrooms. Why is it so synonymous with the kind of image that they are? Somehow I could imagine them loving mushrooms. Yeah. With the story right now, we're still traveling. So, um, right now, Frodo and his friends have reached his original homeland, which is Brandybuck. Um, and he came from there. That's where he lived because he's related to the Brandybucks. But he took up the name Baggins because that's his other side of the family, and that's why Bilbo really loved him, and therefore he moved into the Shire with Bilbo to live near Bilbo and be with Bilbo because Bilbo was so fond of him as his nephew, and so he's going back to his homeland, to be with the rest of the family of the Brandybucks because he doesn't know what he needs to do, but he knows that all he has to do is to leave the Shire behind because he has to do something about the ring, although the quest is yet to be unclear. And that's where we are so far. I feel like I'm gonna try and do this, which is to update you guys every 100 pages or so, like because it's about 400 pages. Updating every 400 pages, updating every updating every 100 pages would be a good way to keep track of the story and where we are at and whatsoever. So that's what we have so far, and actually I'm making great comparisons between this and the movies. I definitely think that the movies are helping with understanding the story a lot better because like I said, I'm not really trying to understand where the story is going. I know where it's gonna go. I know there's certain plot points that the book will hit, that though the movie does not have, like I said, very different, but still gonna hit the same plot points, major plot points in the book. I'm sorry, I'm not figuring out what will happen. I know roughly what will happen, and I'm enjoying myself this time around reading this. So, keep you guys updated. So we've reached the 200 page mark for the Fellowship of the Ring, and it exactly at the 200-page mark. I'm getting into it. I'm really loving it. I mean, I was never bored, and honestly, it's a miss that they did not put Tom Bombadil in the freaking movies, because he's so cute, and I'm so for Mr. Tom Bombadil. I mean, I understand that he, without him and with him, doesn't really change much on the narrative, but it's just a cute character that I really wish, I wonder how he would actually look like in the movies and who they will cast for Tom Bombadil. But doesn't matter. We are in the crux of the story where things are starting to heat up, because it's getting very dangerous. Frodo and his friends have reached the tavern, the Prancing Pony Tavern, and they will encounter Aragorn, who will escort them to Rivendell, which is the elf city, sort of. And you know, the Black Riders of Mordor, they're coming for them. They're coming for them, and they're coming for the ring, and it's very scary, and I'm scared. And I totally understand how, you know, the writing of Mr. J.R.R. Tolkien can be very tedious at the same time, but for a director and a script writer and whatsoever, I can understand how they would be so thankful for the way they write, that he writes, because he completely describes a scene to the T. I can imagine it in my head, also because I watched the movies, but it's like when he describes Aragorn sitting at a corner in the tavern, he describes it to the T as how the movie chose to portray it. And obviously the movie followed it closely, and I was just like, yeah, wow, he described it exactly. I can imagine the exact scene, not because of the movie, but he was actually saying the same things. You were really like, he really described every single thing, from what Aragorn was wearing and how the room looked like and how the atmosphere felt like. Like, you know, when you enter the room in any of the scenes of the book, J.R.R. Tolkien never fails to make J.R.R. Tolkien never fails to make sure that you know exactly what's in the room and exactly how it looks like and how a character looks like and whatsoever, which I totally appreciate, because easy to imagine, easy to get through, but also I can understand that it's very, very, very tedious to read, because you're like, more details, I don't really need to know, and sometimes I do feel that way. But the story is ramping up in intensity. We are rushing to get to Rivendell, and I hope that my little hobbits are gonna be safe, which I'm so excited for. I'm really enjoying this particular read so much as well, because I think I can appreciate the writing a lot more. And I don't know whether it's the age or whatsoever, but a lot of people read The Lord of the Rings when they're really young and enjoy it, but I couldn't. So I guess it's just your reading ability as well as what you enjoy in writing. So I'm enjoying myself right now, and that's all I can say. And things are ramping up. J.R.R. Tolkien writes really well, very descriptive, and I appreciate and hate it at the same time. Yeah, keep you guys updated at the 300-page mark.
Guys, okay, hear me out. I didn't get this one myself, okay? My partner got this for me. The last one was given to me by my sister. So, adding to the collection, I've actually already opened this, so it's not gonna be surprise. It's not gonna be a surprise, but it's a surprise for you guys. So, let me just show you what I got. Alright, you ready? You ready? Whoa, literally only song that makes sense. So as you can see, these are all the characters, and who I actually got is the special edition, which is Gandalf the White, because we have Gandalf the Grey here, we have Gandalf the white. Isn't it beautiful? Oh my god, I'm so excited. I still desperately want Golem, but I'm happy to have Gandalf the White, and now he can join the collection, you know? Very happy, very happy. Alright, I will update you guys later when I have time. Gotta rush from my appointment. I have some notes, everybody. Okay, first of all, I just want to talk about how much I really, really enjoyed this. It was so good. Beyond what I imagined for myself, because I read this before, and I mean, I didn't read Lord of the Rings. I didn't read The Fellowship of the Ring before. I read The Hobbit, and I could not get into it. And so I went into this with a lot of hope of getting into it, and maybe coming out of it not loving it too much. But in the end, I really, really, really enjoyed myself so much. And I just want to talk about what is it that I really, really loved about this so damn much. Okay, so one thing that I really, really disliked the very first time I read The Hobbit is the singing. I really detest the whole poems thing and the singing thing, and I was just like, get that out of my face. I felt like it was distracting from the story. I felt like we were just like getting it. You could get like 2 pages worth of lyrics and then back into the story, and I thought that it was very distracting for me, and I didn't like that jump cut into something that is totally not related to the story. And you know what? I learned to appreciate it. 1. 2 is I learned to understand that it's not gonna distract me from the main plot. In fact, if anything, it lets me understand the world and the culture of Middle Earth and how different groups of creatures, whether it be hobbits, elves, dwarves, they all have their own different styles of, you know, folklore music. And the things that they sing, the melodies that are conjured are all very different. Because, okay, I read this with the audiobook, with Andy Serkis narrating it, and that was chef's kiss beautiful. And he did such a great job actually singing the songs. He didn't just narrate the lyrics, he sang the songs. And I felt like it's more magical like that. Of course, if I wondered without the Andy Serkis narration, would I have enjoyed it as much? But I think it is part of the reason why I'm loving it more this time. Yeah, but now I've learned to like sort of enjoy it, and I actually read the lyrics and try to understand their own lore and own culture and history for each different race that creates a song. Sometimes it's just Bilbo making up the song. Sometimes it's actually like a old-timey song that they're singing again, and it brings up a lot of memories. And I like that. My favorite song is like the Tom Bombadil songs. Oh, Tom Bombadil, Tom Bombadillo. And I was like, okay, that is so cute. But Tom Bombadil is not a character we see in the movies, and I'm a little sad. Okay? Yeah, but he's not very important, so I understand why they took him out. But yet, he's very important at the same time, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Alright. So the next thing that I really enjoyed, well, strangely enough, is the fact that Tolkien has Elvish, and all this time I only thought that he created like one Elvish language, and I come to realize that there's many types of Elvish language. There's at least like 4 different types, and the evil one, Sauron, uses like in sort of an Elvish of a different sense that's a little bit more evil, at least that's what they sort of say in the book, and that's how he carved out like the code for the ring, the one ring, you know, to rule them all. Yeah. And it's so cool because it just like, it just means that Tolkien really understands language, right? I mean, I'm not a linguist, and I'm not saying that he doesn't understand language or whatsoever, but what I mean is that he understands the idea of language and how language changes with it changes in its form in different regions of a country or different regions of a world. And so the Elvish language changes from region to region, and at some point, you know, like Legolas comes from Mirkwood, a different part of the woods, and he comes from Mirkwood, and his Elvish language is different from the Elvish language that's present in the forest that they enter, where they meet Galadriel, and they actually acknowledge this, that they sound a little different, but they can still understand each other based on the basics of everything. But it totally reminds me of like how language really, really evolves where it goes. And I'm talking about this like for, India, where there's different dialects for different states. And like if you go to Bangladeshi, it's Bangladesh. If you go to Bangladesh, Bangladeshi, and then yet they have their national language, which is Hindi, but they also have Tamil, and they have other things that is so much to them. And same with the Philippines, though Tagalog is their main language. And travel to different parts of Philippines, that they all have their own variation of their languages, and like it sounds similar to a untrained ear, right? But a person who can speak Tagalog would know the difference. And like Kapampangan is one of the subsidiary languages that they learn, though it's not their national language, so they know their subsidiary languages. And just shows me that Tolkien understands that languages change depending on the region. I mean, even if you're just talking about English language, it's so different from many different parts of the world, yes. And within Singapore, we kind of changed English to our own usages too. We have Singlish, which I don't know if you guys ever heard of it before. No, we have our own Singlish, and that is quite different from the current like English structure, but it is still our own way of speaking English, and people can still understand us because it's still the same base, but with the grammar and everything, it's super off, but it's just how we communicate. I mean, not everybody uses English. Everyone uses Singlish, which is essentially just Singapore English, but it is changed with our regions, and how in the UK or the US, the way of pronouncing English is also different, and our own things are different, right? Because like chips are not the same. I got cut off because my sister started texting me and my phone just stopped recording. But point is, amazing. I love the fact that Elvish is different for different parts of Middle Earth. Stop rambling about this already. You know what I mean? Alright. Next. Okay, I don't find that the relationship is very obvious between all between the fellowships, like different characters that are going on this journey, but you can see the camaraderie present between the different characters, and I find it is so endearing. I really, really love that. It was so sweet to see them work together towards the same common goal, and how they sort of look after each other, and that, when one person, I recall seeing that Frodo is supposed to make the next choice on where to go next, and you can see how Gimli and Legolas, though they have not known him for long, they are choosing to follow his lead and trusting him in his decision. And it was very heartening to see that their camaraderie, they're working together and towards a common goal that they know they have to do for the common good of the entire of Middle Earth. And it's very heartening to see that they trust each other, even though they're not truly spending incredibly long amounts of time together. And yeah, and talking about them as characters, I'm really loving Sam very much, because I think he's even sweeter in the stories. Like, they make Sam seem a little bit kind of quite wise in the movies, but I feel like Sam is just someone that's incredibly loyal, and that's it. Like, he's incredibly loyal. He really loves Mr. Frodo very, very much. I'm saying Mr. Frodo because he calls him Mr. Frodo, okay? And he's very sweet. It's like his sort of his master, right? Because Sam is his gardener, and Sam is Mr. Frodo's gardener, and so Sam is very, very, very loyal, and he's just like, even when he's afraid, he's so brave. He'll just be like, you know what, if Mr. Frodo is going there, I'm going there with Mr. Frodo. I'm scared, but I'm gonna do it because I I know that this is the right moves for me. This is exactly the right moves for me. I have to do this for the sake of everyone. And you know, like his character growth is really astounding. I can imagine that there's more to come for him in the next 2 books, and I'm really excited to see what's up with that. And I just want to talk about the fact that this story, I kind of get why everybody loves it so much, because oh gosh, I'm sweating, I'm so sorry. It's hot. It's really hot today. I thought that the perspective from Aragorn could have easily been the way that most people write the story, because you see, Aragorn, son of Arathorn, is the lost royalty, the lost heir of Isildur, and he should be like the character that you follow, because he is a hero. He is meant to come to his power. He's meant to come to his position as the one true king, you know, of Middle Earth, sort of, not Middle Earth, but you know what I mean. Like, he is the renowned king, and the king to rule them all in sort of a way, but in the righteous way, not like Sauron's way, you know, like, nope. But, you know, thinking about it, a lot of authors could have easily, like, a lot of authors would have wanted the story to be Aragorn's perspective, and we have like a band of people that will help him achieve his goal. And you know what? Tolkien didn't choose that route. He chose to add Aragorn as a side character. Instead, we are following a different character, a character that is ordinary, a character that is not meant to be a hero, but just happened to fall into a position where he has to do this for the greater good of humanity. In this case, not just humans, right? Because Middle Earthians, yeah, he has to do this for the greater good of everyone who lives in Middle Earth. But it's not like he was vying to be a hero all his life. He's comfortable in his Shire. He's comfortable in the Shire. He's comfortable living in that home of his, just doing things and being happy. And he has never wished for an adventure in life. Like, you can see that Frodo never asked for this. And multiple times you see that Frodo is doubting himself and asking why did he choose to do this, and he has a lot of doubt. And I think that creating a story from his perspective is what's actually so endearing about Lord of the Rings, that even with as deep and dark of a story as it is actually truly, that following a character that feels ordinary makes us ordinary people realize that, you know, maybe there's more to us. I don't know, at least it's how I feel, because a little hobbit such as Frodo, who is never meant to come to such a role, and yet with a lot of support and with our own determination, we could be achieving great things in life too. And I mean, that's what I feel about Frodo. I don't think that's the main point of the story, but I feel like I can relate so heavily to Frodo because he is so real. Like, he is just a normal person, and a normal person doing a difficult task. And we can understand how he feels like, yeah, Frodo, you're not meant to do this. And so wanting to give up multiple times during the journey is so normal, and we feel you. And I definitely did so. And that being said, with his struggles, every time he struggles with the fact that he's holding the ring, or he's struggling through the journey, I really do cry a little inside. I weep a little inside for Frodo, like, oh, you poor thing, like, I wish you didn't have to do this too. I wish you didn't have to, but then there won't be any story for me to read. But I wish, like, you're just happy and jolly in the Shire and living out your life, tending to a garden or something. Yeah, and I really love Frodo very much. I'm very in love with all the characters and their own little traits. Very much like Merry and Pippin are so... Merry is not very present, but Pippin is freaking hilarious. Like, he's really as stupid as he's portrayed in the movies, and I just love it. Like, his dumb nature is what brings so much light to the story, that it's so dark and heavy and full of, like, responsibility. Yeah, Pippin does bring a lot of joy and you know, lightness to the story. Yeah. And you know, we all know that Tolkien writes really descriptively. Like he would literally describe everything in the book, everything. Like he would describe the whole room, like how it looks, the atmosphere, what kind of furniture, in terms of like creating an entire scene for the reader to imagine for ourselves. And you know, I initially felt like that was too much when I was younger. I just wanted to push through the story, but now I could really appreciate how like these scenes help me paint a very vivid picture, and it gets me even more immersed in the story because I can imagine every single point. I mean, the movies are probably helping, but not everything is like the movies, so I gotta still imagine it for myself. And the fact that he describes it in a way that makes it very easy for the reader to understand, even if it's very long-winded, you can totally paint a picture in your head. I'm the kind of reader that likes to paint a picture in my head and sort of imagine it. I mean, as clear as it may not be very clear, but it is still clear enough for me to like understand and really see like what Tolkien is trying to say. Yeah. And which brings me to the next point. I'm really sad that one of the most iconic scenes in the movies that I really like, the waterhorse scene, if you guys know, that was freaking epic. Like I love that scene so goddamn much. Like that was the only thing I remember when I was watching this at 3 years old. Yeah, like I love that scene so much. It's different in the books. Like we still have a waterhorse scene, but it's different. It's not as impactful, I feel. And I was a little sad that that was not the real scene that was in the books, and I'm kind of glad that the director chose to make it a little bit more exciting for the viewer. And you see, it's different, but it's still cool. It's still cool. So I'm still happy. So that's literally all I have to say for the Fellowship of the Ring, and I'll be reading The Two Towers next, and I'm very excited. Part 2 is here to come. And you know what? I hope that you're enjoying this journey with me. I hope that you're enjoying this vlog and that you're also inspired to pick up the Lord of the Rings. And I will catch you in the next part of this vlog. So in order to not miss out on that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys in the next vlog. Bye!